This is partners in the process, 'cause we're built better together.
We'll get into also the gyms and stuff, the facilities that you own.
Right.
That's fairly new, even I guess in her eyes. And the meal prep company, which I gotta admit is excellent. She knows I love your
Yes,
meals.
he does.
I mean, I'll eat 2 or 3 of them a day sometimes, and I'm like, damn it, I ran through too quick because I needed some of those for tomorrow.
Right.
But he said they taste so fresh and so
Right.
much like home cooked meals
They don't
versus
feel
buying
canned.
something frozen. Or,
Yes.
uh-huh.
And so she's got that spot on. And then with you guys being able to track, all the macros and all that stuff on there, that's all anybody really wants.
Right.
Your price point's right on. It's access-wise, where you're centrally located, it's easy to come get, even though I keep forgetting to swing by and get my stuff. I have to go by there today and get it. But otherwise, I mean, I've tried other meal prep companies, and that's it. I guess people's expectations of like a mail-in meal prep company are kind of lowered because they're like, oh, it's, being packaged, built in bulk, sent to me. So it's pretty good for that. Yours isn't like that. Like, I feel like I sat down, you cooked it, and gave it to me after I take it out of the microwave. Like, it tastes really good. It's well put together. It's well packaged. It's different every week. There's good options. It's not the same old, even though I can get some of the stuff that I really like if I want it. So.
But I understand, like, as far as her working, because she's a teacher, correct?
She is.
Yes. And I resigned back in 2015. And it was really hard to do because of the stability of my job.
Sure.
Vacation time. I had the summers and stuff off with the kids, and I was off when they were off. And I knew that once I did resign, that was going to put a lot of pressure on Bobby also to pick up the slack and to kind of make up for my to make up my salary.
You know how their salary works. It comes once a month. So if you had any big bills that you wanted to pay and you depended on that, that was something you knew was always coming. Plus, their retirement's great and benefits were really good. Insurance.
I carried the insurance.
So I could kind of grow and do the things I needed to do while she was handling all that kind of stuff. And when we decided that, hey, we're going to just fully jump out on our own, it did add a lot of pressure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, and I understand we had some factors that had happened within our family that kind of pushed us to do that.
Sure.
It was, either continue to work or be a mother and raise my kids. And, there was one of our daughters that got really sick and she was in ICU for like, I think 12 days. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And so when she was at the hospital for 2 weeks solid and I was having to bring stuff to her. I mean, I think I got her away from one night to actually go back to the house. And I stayed there. She realized after that there was just more to life.
And of course that happened in August. So school had just started.
Right. So you have the pressures of that,
yeah,
Just started.
So Bobby's like, if we could just make it through the year, then we're going to try to figure something out, because I'd already signed contract.
And I know
so
hers isn't cut and dry. It's a very challenging job. She said she's dealing with some children that are very advanced in some of the psychological issues and stuff that they have. And so she's almost like a nurse and a teacher at the same. It's not a lot of teaching as much as it is just trying to keep these people from hurting themselves while teaching them something, while not getting hurt yourself. And it's
very
super
drainage,
stressful.
I'm sure.
When we met her the other day, the one thing I noticed is she looked very tired. And I said
that.
something to her, and she's like, "I am." She's like, "I was up since 3 a.m. with the baby. You got a new baby?"
We do. 8 months.
8 months old.
Yeah, quarters 8 months. Awesome kid.
Yes.
Super happy, but he's going through the trials and tribulations right now, and he likes to wake up in the middle of the night and just hang out with mom or dad.
Yes.
So dad's trying to do his best to do his part on occasion, but mom, she's a rock star.
Yeah.
So last night we were both up about 3 o'clock, and she stuck it out, and I went back to bed, but yeah, it's part of it,
Yeah.
And we have the 3 other kids at the house too, so they help out, which is nice. But yeah, it's definitely a learning curve. Reintroducing the kid, because I think like you guys, I have 3 kids. She's bonus mom, but I've got a 16, 13, and 10-year-old, and then we decided to have Porter so we could start our family. And it's a completely different dynamic now. Being older, a little more mature, a little more set in certain things and patterns and routines, and then really just kind of having to start over and reapply all those things and try to make it work for everybody, to make it conducive for the whole family, and not just a focus for the baby but for all of them. So it's been interesting, and as a father trying to start over with the businesses and be available for my kids and still have that time. One of the reasons that I've really loved being an entrepreneur is having that time to be with my kids. I take my kids to school every day. I pick them up most days, and I get that little bit of time, and I don't have a lot of time sometimes in the evenings because I have to stay late and work, and work, and there's nights I'll come home, have dinner, I'm back at the gyms, taking care of things there, or I'm online taking care of things, following up, whatnot, and they get it. But I also try to be very intentional when I have that time with them, and have one-on-one too with each one of them, and, those daddy dates and what have you. So it's definitely stressful.
It's a complicated balance.
Absolutely.
It's really
balance.
It's in balance. It's not a balance per se. It's,
right.
We talk about how people talk about that balance in life, and Tim Grover, which Joey knows very well, and that guy is incredible. He's like, there's times in your life where it's going to be unbalanced.
Right.
And if you're a very driven individual, there's going to be a lot of time when it's unbalanced. And so it's not how balanced you can get it, but how much you can hold on one side without the other side toppling over.
Correct.
Because that's really what it boils down to, especially if you're in a household with two jobs. Hers is very demanding. It's got a set amount of hours. Then it's got hours after, I'm sure, and extracurricular and all that stuff. You've got kids that got activities going on. You've got a baby. You're up all night. You've got 3 companies you're running. Now, you've got 2 gyms, correct?
That's correct.
You had a third one. You guys sold it out in Rolla, right?
We did. That's correct.
You started the meal prep company about a year ago. I guess just turned a year old.
Yes.
But do you also still do insurance too?
So I'm a broker. I've been a broker for over 20 years. I actually got into the business out of college. I actually have a teaching degree, never taught.
Okay.
So I'm a huge proponent these days of if you really don't want to go to college, I don't think you need to go to college.
Yes.
Never used my degree. Spent a lot of time. Basically, I think I spent a lot of money to learn how to write a proper letter.
But you learned. Would
Correct.
you think that there was value in going just to learn the knowledge, gain the knowledge that you got?
I feel like I applied myself to get the degree, and I can pat myself on the back that I went out and sought out to finish, and I'm glad I finished.
Yes.
But I've really not probably really utilized a whole lot of what I learned.
Yeah.
Some things I believe I probably did. But at the end of the day, I think the hard work, the tenacity, the multiple jobs I've had over the years, a lot of failures, and I think everybody can kind of agree on that most of the time we learn from our failures, not from our accomplishments.
You should, at least in my opinion.
Right.
Yeah.
Seems like, and I know I've made plenty of those and continue to, and you just hopefully you can get back up and learn from that and continue to move forward. So sorry, I kind of got off track, but
No, you're fine.
I like the business. I liked the business aspect of health insurance. I sold pre-need funerals to start right out of college. Grew up in a household where my dad was a broker, life insurance, health insurance sales. Swore I would never do that. Sitting at the kitchen table for years, listening to that every night at dinner, it was just something I was like, I am absolutely not ever going to do this. So the irony of getting into the business on my own and then actually going to work for my father and moving back to Cape Girardeau to do that was kind of ironic. And then just working for families really hard. And I went another direction and followed kind of I had more aspirations to do things more on my own. And so I left my dad's brokerage and I went to go work for another brokerage in the city up in St. Louis. Didn't work out, but I learned a lot from that gentleman. Reached back out to my dad and was like, hey, I still want to be in the game. I just can't do it under the same roof. We decided that I would continue to run business through my father, but be basically an independent broker. And so we expanded his business into the Washington, Missouri area. I basically worked out of the house for probably about a year or so. Bartended on the side, just whatever I could do to supplement my income. Yeah. I wasn't married yet at the time. And then we actually opened a satellite office in downtown Washington. So I had that for a few years. And ultimately what ended up happening and how we jumped into the gym world was I guess it was 2007, the crash. Everything was going to hell in a handbasket. And my dad had a lot of cash that was tied up in stocks. And he's like, I'm losing. I need to figure something else out. And I had always been into lifting weights. I was kind of a scrawny kid, but always kind of got into the weights and the fitness side of things. And there was a company out of Columbia that was a PNC brokerage, and they had started a physical therapy business and were actually taking care of their own work comp claims through their own agency. So they were
Really?
reducing a lot of the claim costs because they were controlling that in-house. And we had heard about that concept, and we were like, man, this is really cool. And I was like, we could apply this to health insurance. People need to be more they need to be more supportive of themselves. And back then, it was prevention. And the return on investment from most owners, they weren't really seeing that. But we were like, let's try to make a go at this. So we had looked at a local gym that was for sale, mom and pop kind of situation, and it just didn't seem like the right fit. And at the time, there was a gym that opened up right across from my dad's office in Cape Girardeau, and it was an Anytime Fitness. And I had seen it when I came home to visit, and I didn't know anything about it. I actually thought it was a company that maybe sold treadmills. So anyway, my dad gave me the information. He's like, hey, you need to look these guys up. I think they're legit.
When was this?
2007-ish, I'd say. Yeah, 2007-ish. So my son was just about to be born. We checked him out. I did some research online. We contacted them. They're based out of Hastings, Minnesota. And we took a trip, and him and I did a road trip up there and spent a week in class. And my dad wrote a check, and we bought the first franchise for Union, Missouri.
Gotcha.
I was residing in Union at the time, and so we invested that time. Where we're at currently located is where we started. Just about 15 years ago, and that's kind of how it started. And then at the time, I was still doing the brokerage, doing the health insurance, and so we were trying to apply the two together. And just prior to that, I had been setting up relationships with some of the local gyms. So prior to us actually doing the gym, I was actually doing negotiated discounts where if I had a client, I had pre-negotiated deals with like Competitive Edge, Tri Fitness. There was a little mom and pop gym in Herman. We had some business in Farmington. And so I had gone out and marketed to these gyms like, hey, I'm going to get you business. All I ask is you give my people a discount if they show up at your place. So I was kind of trying to support the local businesses internally with what I was doing. And that's basically how we got into the whole concept.
Because I like you have a model of, we talked about membership model.
Correct.
That's very similar to like a health insurance policy. And so you even went around to some businesses.
That's correct.
And marketed to them to add it into their benefit packages, right?
I was selling it like a bit like a benefit.
Yeah.
It doesn't have the same tax implications that you can get from the health insurance, but you're supporting your people, you're creating presenteeism, you're hopefully creating a better environment and camaraderie with your people, right? And I think you guys have talked about this in previous podcasts, just taking care of your people. And one aspect of that I think we overlook sometimes is people's health, and it's huge.
It's one of the three main things we talk about is your health.
Right. I mean, if you're gonna have good quality employees, they need to be healthy,
Yes.
and if you can support that. And a gym membership doesn't really cost a whole lot of money.
Right.
So we went out and we marketed to some of the municipalities in the area, the school districts. I still have those relationships. Union School District took me 3 different superintendents, and I just kept bugging them. And I was from the old days before the internet, and I mean I was cold calling, I was knocking on doors, and so I just kept creating those relationships. The school district was unique because I got into the middle school, and in the whole time and process that I was trying to create the relationship with the payroll deduct to do with the discount for the employees, I was also trying to help support the community. So I was doing a latchkey program at the middle school for free a couple days a week. So latchkey program, basically it's back in the day a term probably from when we grew up was, the kids that stayed home and went home to empty home. So the middle school had a program where after school there was some tutoring available. You could kind of hang out until mom and dad either got off work or some other accommodation came to pick you up. So there was about a 45-minute time opening right there after school where I would pop in twice a week. We had access at the middle school to a kitchen. So I know one day we had the paper out and we did like some smoothies, some healthy smoothies, and just kind of gave the kids some ideas on some snacks that were healthy, some healthy alternatives that they could do after school. And I ran a boot camp. I was doing it originally for staff, and then I was like, I'm here. There's these kids let's try to do something.
Sure.
And so after talking to one of the counselors there who had been a gym member, and her and I'd gone back and forth on some ideas, she kind of helped me support it and put it together. She's like, I have all these kids that are basically just sitting here in the gym for anywhere from 35 minutes to an hour after school, waiting for mom or dad or whoever to come pick them up. I was like, I got an idea. I was like, just hear me out. So we put this program together, and they had a separate gymnasium at the time that was from part of the dated part of the building, and it was just kind of an open old gym. And I was like, this is perfect. We can set everything up in here. Nice days we went out to the track and basically just ran a generic boot camp. Just got them active.
Yeah.
And at the time I'd read a book called, it had to do with 0 Hour. And I forget the author's name, but it was a book that was based off a PE teacher that was in Naperville, Illinois, up by Chicago. And he had done all of these crazy promotions of 0 Hour to these kids that basically they came in and they started doing this running program in the morning before school. And their tests started going through the roof at this particular school district. And they were trying to find what the common denominator was. And what it was is these kids were all participating in this running program. And so they were going and they were participating in this program prior to school starting. And then their class load, the harder classes were being taken earlier in the morning. And they were showing the correlation of working out with critical thinking and the cognitive development and the help that it had by supporting those two. And it was very interesting. And I was like, kids are sitting in school for 8 hours. They're going gangbusters crazy, sitting still. And then they get home after school, and then they're expected to do more homework. So this Latchkey program is like, hey, this is a great idea. We can get these kids active, moving around, not sitting, not sitting in front of TV, watching the boob tube, eating junk after school. We can get them active, and then when they get home, if they've got studies to do, their brains are reset.
Right.
And so we were kind of, trying to use that focus. So I did that for a little bit, and then unfortunately just due to communication and just some other issues, we ended up kind of bailing out of that program. It's still in the back of my mind. It's actually something on my list of things that I want to continue to try to do in the future.
Yeah.
And I think at some point in the future we will probably get back into the school districts and try to support that.
Yeah.
It's something that I've always been passionate about and want to try to continue. So anyway, there's just kind of an off segue of something that kind of got me motivated in the fitness industry.
So that's
the norm.
So from your entrepreneurship journey as a broker into starting the gyms. So how does Union then metabolize into Rolla and St. Clair?
So we had a lot of success in Union. There wasn't a whole lot of other gyms at the time. There was one other gym in town that was doing a little bit. But I felt like we had a different connect with how we were doing it. The one thing that I always found was the New Year's resolutioners. They were coming in and they were working out, and then about April and then up till literally this month, this last month, is always the worst month in the history of our gyms. April, for whatever reason, is just a very dead time, and it's because all those folks that are dedicated just quit.
Yeah.
And a big majority of them do that. And so I told myself, I am going to make a point to get those people in April to get off whatever that attitude is and get them back in the gym. And so what I started doing is putting a focus on my follow-ups, just checking in with people and being intentional about their memberships.
Yeah.
I didn't want to be this, hey, you're a number, you pay me every month, and I don't care if you come in or not. I wanted my members to know that
the entire franchise model for the most part for most franchises.
Correct.
Yeah.
Is, hey, we'll take your money and probably a smarter
and don't use our equipment.
and probably a smarter business model. Let's be honest. You're not using my stuff and I'm making money on you. That's perfect. But to be intentional in what I do in a living and so that I can sleep at night, I want to help people.
So there's a difference between the brand of some of these gyms we talked about, which are really anti-gym culture gyms, and we've had other gym owners on here too, and we've talked about how creating that culture of the gym meathead mentality, like trying to counteract the fact that that's not as true as people think it is.
Correct.
And how fitness is important and how those people are some of the kindest people out there willing to help you out and show you how to do things. And I've been in your gym numerous times, and that's how it is. Everybody's in there cheering each other on. It's kind of noisy. They're slamming some stuff around, but it's not because they're being ignorant. It's because they're motivating other people to push.
Right.
They're motivating them to hit new PRs. They're motivating them to get an extra rep in. They're just they're pushing people. Everybody stops and looks and is like, who's this person who just walked in? But they all are still together, working, pushing each other.
Right.
It's a culture that was really big in the 80s and 90s, early 90s, and then it started going away because these big gyms started popping up, these, I'll call them anti-gyms, where it's let's have you all pay a small membership. We'll have you come to this big fancy gym with this really nice equipment. Then we'll get in your way the whole time you're there, make it really inconvenient for you, pester you, just kind of make it to where like we'll set alarms off when you're too loud and just crazy stuff, to where you don't want to come back, but then you forget the $10 a month's coming out and you just don't use our equipment.
Correct.
So our equipment lasts forever.
Right.
We get you all month.
Right.
We go off volume instead of quality. Then, whereas you, from a brand standpoint, yes, maybe it's Anytime Fitness, but you're looking at it and going, but Edwin, which we never even properly introduced you at the beginning of this.
Okay.
Is it Van Wielden or
Van Welden?
Van Welden.
Yeah.
So, you and your brand and who you are as an owner wants to promote it more as the culture side of it, not just this is what you started with,
right?
But it's not the direction you're taking things.
Right.
The direction you're taking things is more of a standalone, more of the boot camp fitness. Because I noticed at the back of one of your facilities, you have this huge boot camp out there.
Right.
So when do you guys hold stuff out there?
So we do classes periodically throughout the week. That kind of came to fruition just because we needed a space. We kind of have outgrown our space, and seasonally we can use that outdoor area most of the year. And honestly, unless it's raining, or even sometimes raining with 75 hard now, people will get out there. But COVID kind of forced us to have a different outlook on some things, and I think everybody can agree with that without having to talk about it a ton.
Right.
It was like we need to have an option for people that maybe don't want to be right on top of everybody else.
Because shutting down and being completely compliant is not an option.
Right.
We can't just stop
But
fitness.
it's so neat that it made people think outside of the box and actually
It forced
try
us.
new things.
Right.
Yeah.
And one thing that we've done to kind of segue into a new perspective with how we do our gym is, just because you're a gym member and maybe you don't make it to the gym every day, we want to make sure that you're active. So if that means flipping tires outside in the back, or walking around your neighborhood at your house, or running, or if you have a treadmill, whatever it may be, we want people to be active. And part of that equation is the support that we offer. So we don't expect, and I'm not a Nazi with people about, you got to be in here 7 days a week. We try to have a real approach. I still eat bad sometimes, and I have a body image that I want to try to portray, but I'm legit. I put the work in, but I also have days off where I don't feel like doing anything, and I'll still try to do what I can.
Yes.
And it may mean I have to skip the gym, but I may just play with my kids outside, or whatever it may be.
Right.
And I can justify that as being active. So if people would just be more active in general, things would be better. So yeah, the space out back is, it was just kind of a brainchild that I had, that I felt like we needed to have more space. We were limited on space, and unfortunately where we were at and where we're at now, we're kind of stuck. And we need more square footage because we are growing as a business. And so we're looking at some alternative options right now as far as that goes. But the outdoor space is like, all right, this is perfect. And it allows people to kind of have that flexibility to do what they want out there. And it's a little bit more of a, I don't know, it's kind of taking it back to some basics. We've got the tires, we put some rubber mats outside.
There's some frames, some structure back there. Is it for like pull-ups and
so I had
so
unfortunately there was another gym in town that was doing some boxing stuff that ended up closing up, and I was able to talk to those guys. They used to be gym members and super cool guys, and I was able to relieve them of that equipment and purchase it, and I was like, this isn't going to fit in our gym, so let's stick it outside.
Yeah.
And so we did. And so unfortunately we've not really, it's cool, and I hate to say it, but it's cool looking, but not everybody uses it.
Yeah.
But it does bring an eye to that area, and people are like, oh, I forgot about outside. I can go out there and do something today.
Yeah.
It's nice out.
Yeah.
Just to change it up. So yeah, it's definitely something that moving forward we'll definitely continue to do. Some of the best workouts I've ever had has been outside on that tire. I've got a love-hate thing for those tires out there, but it's great,
Yeah.
So, and I one thing and one way I think I've evolved as a trainer is you have to learn to embrace the suck. And if you can't do that, you're never, in my opinion, gonna stick through it, because it's not always gonna be easy. Just like anything in life, you're gonna go through those trials and tribulations, and taking care of yourself is the same thing. You know, when you get into fitness, you know, you start with, I just want to do this. Maybe I just want to lose a few pounds, or I want to maintain. You get hungry. Once you start seeing results, you get hungry and you want more.
You should at least.
And as
then it becomes a lifestyle.
Yes.
Correct.
You
Right.
know?
It becomes it's intentional, and it becomes a part of who you are. It's an identity. You know, your identity is, just like I get up in the morning and I stretch and I do my morning routine, and I take my kids to school as well, I go work out. That's part of my routine. If I don't do that, if it's a day that's off and I have to do something else, or I go later or whatever, it throws my day off.
Right.
That's part of my morning routine.
Right.
It becomes something that was important to me, and if it's important enough to you, you'll do it.
Right.
And until people start making that, and I don't know how many people I talk to, they're like, I just don't have time, I work this and that. I'm like, you don't make it important. That's like saying you have children or a wife that you just never talk to because you work too much. Well, no, I love them. That's why I talk to them, because it's important to you.
Right.
Make your fitness important to you.
Right.
It's 45 minutes to an hour a day.
Right.
You mess around and waste that amount of time on the toilet with your phone. I know you do. You know what I mean?
Right.
Go work out, go walk, go run on a treadmill, lift some light weight, do something.
Right.
And when you start to see those results, I've caught a lot of attention lately because people were talking about this wristband that I wear. And it just says 365 committed, dreams come with a price. That's all it says on this. And I started wearing it months ago because I got to a point where I was plateauing, and it was getting hard for me to continue to push towards my goals, and I had goals I hadn't hit yet. And I put this thing on, and she'd pointed out, she's like, "Oh, you're wearing wristbands now. Is that what we're doing?" I said I'm doing it because there are a lot of days that I look down and I spin this thing and I read it, and it motivates me to keep pushing. It motivates me to keep going, because I know on the days that are really hard, I signed up for this. It wasn't going to be easy.
Right.
It takes commitment. 365 days, and everything comes with a price. And if that's pain, if that's time, if that's money, it's always a sacrifice.
Right.
Whatever that is, that goal takes that. And I don't take this damn thing off because I want to be reminded all the time, if I'm driving, if I'm whatever, that the shit I'm going through, the suck that you need to embrace, comes with a cost. It's part of it.
And the cost, you can't always feel guilty about the cost. Sometimes if it's the 45 minutes that you need, that's just the 45 minutes that you need.
And that's the price.
You can't be guilty about it.
The cost is what happens from the downside of the upside of doing or not doing it. The cost is my health if I don't work out.
Right.
Or the cost is now I'm healthy, and so I'm in better shape, and now I can do these things. You know, that's the cost associated with the price that I pay up front. Whether that's a high price or a low price depends on what the cost is going to be later. You know?
Right.
So
absolutely.
I think
but that is interesting when you said that sometimes you could call some of your patrons and stuff out, because I know if I was going to your gym and it was April and I'm like, you know what, I'm just not going to go right now, I got a lot going on, and I would see like you or your wife's name or somebody pop up on my phone being like, you know, we've noticed you've not been in here, that would motivate me to be like, I don't want you to call me out and to see me not coming. I'm coming.
Someone's paying attention.
Yes,
right? You know, they're actually, and that they care.
Right.
And the fact that you care makes a big difference too.
Right.
They're like, oh, I'm not just a number in a membership. Like, they're noticing that I'm not there.
Well, and I've had people ask me, why'd you call me? And I'm like, why wouldn't I call you?
It's a better question.
You're here, and then you're not here, and I recognize that because you were doing so good, and now I don't know what happened, but I want to make sure you're okay, number one.
Yeah.
But if there's something I can do to help enforce what you were doing prior, that's what I'm here for.
Yeah.
That's what you paid for when you signed up at this gym. That's what we're there for.
It wasn't just access to our equipment, it was access to my team. So why don't you give us a little background on your team? You said you got about 10 contractors roughly that work there.
We do.
And so what all services do you guys provide there?
So you mentioned the meal prep. So we have the meal prep, which really is something that everybody should be a little more attentive to, as far as a big part of the process with fitness is nutrition.
And I don't do it. I would say your meal prep's probably 70% of my weekly intake.
Right.
But it's a good 70%. So if 30% of it's me having to source it from, you know, if we go out to eat and I have to pick a good source, or we bring something in, or I cook something myself. But the bulk of it is calculated with the meal preps, and it's super, super important.
Right. So having a good support system, we have trainers of all walks of life. Most of my trainers have either been members of my gym, or they have had their own journeys, and then came on board just because they kind of saw how we operated, and they appreciated what we did, and they had, basically a success story that they could share with other people. And it takes all kinds, to relate. And so we've had a handful of people come in. I've had a school teacher for multiple years that's been with me that's lost over 100 pounds. She's still in her journey, but has been a great support. She was a support to our members when she was just a member. Yeah. And we had a conversation one day, and she's like, yeah, I was kind of thinking about maybe being, a certified trainer. And I was like, what are you waiting for? Like, you're hired. Just go do it, because you're awesome. Yeah. And you're already doing it, so let's just get you paid, right. To help start supporting those people in our gym. And then I've had a lot of them have been kind of that, but I've got a new dad who has been off and on a member of our gym. He ran, I believe, a Lowe's. He was a store manager of a Lowe's. He was a manager of a Best Buy. He ran a Gold's up here in the city, and so he's been all over the place with positions where he's been, in management and stuff. And but he's a people person, and now he works for the Girl Scouts of America as a director. Awesome people person, very relatable. But he cares. Yeah. And one notion that I've picked up with him all the years I've known him in the gym is he cares. Yeah. And we had a conversation, and come to find out he was already looking at becoming a trainer. So it was crazy, because I brought it up, and he was like, dude, I'm literally been looking at certifications. So it's
preparation meets opportunity.
Right. Yeah. Right. It was meant to be, for sure. Yeah. So the team we have, we typically do a fit consult with our new clients. Something we used to do years ago was we made our trainers brand themselves, so they had to offer a free session, quote unquote, to help us as gym owners. Because at the time I wasn't really doing any training myself. We were just operating the facilities, and the direction of the gym back then wasn't really pushing the support. It was just get in, get out. Yeah. So, we changed that culture. So with it, I believe everybody deserves to have some sort of guidance. So if you walk in off the street and you have no clue on how to do anything in that facility, it's all going to be foreign, and it's probably going to be scary. Yep. There's a good chance you're going to sign up and you may not even ever come back. So the Fit Consult is just an opportunity where I pay my staff to meet with those people and be intentional, get their story. Why'd they walk in the first place? Is there a goal in mind? Are they working towards something particular, or is it they're fed up with how things are and they just want to change? We use that time to basically assess their needs, and then I get involved if need be. If it's pretty in depth, but normally I trust my trainers to do their part, and I try to be involved with most of my trainers and their clients. I check in and make sure they're checking in. Sometimes I check in on clients of theirs just to make sure that my trainers are doing what they're supposed to do. And if there's a disconnect there, sometimes I'll help reconnect that. And sometimes it's a disconnect and they need a different trainer. And all my trainers, we're all on the same team. So sometimes maybe it's just not a good fit.
Oh, for sure. Everybody's got their own style.
Right. And we definitely try to support that. We kind of leave the egos outside when it comes to that. Everybody's there to help everybody. We just had a situation here recently where we had a trainer had some unfortunate events happen with her family, and she had to step out for a couple weeks, and all my other trainers, man, just stepped up and filled the void. I picked up one of her clients and helped out, and a few of our other trainers just kind of stepped up and said, hey, we'll run those classes for you. Cool. And so it's a great, like, the culture we have has evolved, and it's now it's coming through to my staff. So with staff, we've had these independent contractors. We've kind of gone a different direction and chosen to use independent contractors as opposed to regular staff. And that's kind of where we're at now, is trying to find staff. And as you guys know, with the way things change with COVID, bringing that back up again, it's hard to get people to work.
It is. The things that motivated people before and what motivates them now is completely different. And generational, there's a whole generation that grew up in this last, we'll call it 4 years. There was a lot of kids that went from middle age to now they're in the workforce, and their whole idea of what their expectations are is completely different than what it really is.
Oh, right.
And so it's hard to motivate people to want to do something more or want to work, because they just don't have it in them to like money isn't even really a concept anymore. Like I can pay you more, but they really aren't motivated by money anymore.
Right.
I've
So
had people.
help at all.
It's
all good.
I mean, I've recently even myself had a guy who was with me for many years, and he straight up told me that the money wasn't that important to him anymore. That he has worked, like things that motivated him weren't money.
Right.
And so even though he was doing really well, and I admired everything that he did for the company and working for me and stuff, at the end of the day, that wasn't enough to even keep him there. And so, I mean, even driving the nicest equipment and having the nicest positions and the best loads and all these things, sometimes that just doesn't motivate people. And in this industry, you know, how do you motivate them? You know, you get a free gym membership. I don't want to work out that much.
Right.
Or I do want to work out, but like how much does it cost me? What else can I get? You know what I mean? So then I can pay you this. Okay, that's great. Well, how many days a week can I work? Okay, well, I got this going on, or I want to leave early for this. It's just weird. This dynamic is so strange with getting people to work. Like I can't put my finger on it. I can't figure out.
Because it's more, what can you give me?
It's this.
That's what it is.
It's almost when you interview somebody, you just like,
yes.
Here's my questions,
Yes.
and I'm going to give them to you, and you're going to ask me questions, and I'm going to see if I'm going to answer them correctly. Yeah,
Could roll a lot out right now just on that, because I feel like I need to be interviewed, because when we interview people, we say it's not only that we want to make sure this is a good fit for you, but we need to make sure you're a good fit for us.
Yeah.
That now turns people off. They're like, well, you don't think I'm good enough? And I'm like, I didn't say that. I'm just saying this might not be your cup of tea, because my expectations are not going to change. I'm not lowering my standards. Matter of fact, that bar gets changed all the time, and it's always getting raised.
Right.
And so I expect more out of people. I give more, but I expect more. And I'll give it in different ways now. You know, we give it in time off. We give it in flexibility. We give it in a lot of different things. Equipment.
Right.
Like there's different things that we have found that were important to people that didn't really hurt us.
Right.
And actually financially, in a lot of ways, it's cheaper, because they prefer to have that flexibility of not getting in trouble for leaving early or last minute notice or different stuff like that, versus giving them an extra dollar or something. They prefer that more.
Right.
The understanding, so to speak, which was always there to some degree, but obviously as business owners, we have expectations. We have clients that we have to give something to. So it's hard to find people. It really truly is. It's like it's never been, you know. So then what happens is you now end up working a lot at the gym, because replacing you is very difficult. So
going back to the different locations, I can give you a real quick spiel on Rolla. So my dad and I opened Rolla. Rolla was great. We wanted to go another direction. We'd done some investigating on different areas and locations, trying to keep it within a reasonable amount of time to travel. I was going to be operating those gyms. So we opened up shop in Rolla. Rolla did really well. We had an opportunity at that time to claim another territory, and so we claimed Sullivan. Mm-hmm. And actually where Sullivan's Anytime Fitness is now is actually, we had looked at that space. And then some things happened within the business. I was wanting to go a different direction with the business than my dad. And being a personal trainer at that time, I decided that it was time for me to step away from my role in the company, and that I was going to try to go another direction. So I firstly left the brokerage. So I started working as an independent broker for a different insurance agency locally that was more along the lines of what I was trying to do on that side. And then with the gyms, basically, I just kind of went to my dad and I was like, listen, as a trainer, I don't think we're seeing eye to eye with how club operations are going. I respect what you're doing, but I'm not going to do it that way anymore. So we need to figure things out. And so I got a price. And, you know, at that point it was like, all right, I got to figure out how to buy my dad out. Yeah. And we were able to accomplish that. Creating the club culture I actually had two very awesome, just super cool members that stepped up, and after some negotiations, cut me checks and basically supported the efforts through the financial side to get me enough capital to buy my dad out.
So they're partners of yours in this?
So they are, yeah. Okay. So, yeah. Not really on the operations too much. Silent but still supportive. Sure. And we're working on some things right now to where actually they're going to go another avenue, and I think I'm going to be stepping out again. Oh, okay. To do some things differently. But so in the process of that, Rolla, and I separated from Rolla. I just had Union at that time. My father had decided to open one in Jackson, Missouri, closer to our hometown, and I wasn't really involved in that. And that was part of the segue too. Is like, all right, now all of a sudden I'm not involved in the operations part, so I'm like, all right, I see where this is going. So I was happy to separate at that point. So Union came about and was doing great, and then of course COVID happened. And then during COVID, I was like, all right, we're either going to have to go all in or we're going to have to get the hell out.
Right.
And I decided this is what I've been doing for the last 10 years, so I guess I'm all in. And so we had decided to invest in Rolla, and it became for sale. And I found out it was for sale. My dad actually, even though we were partners in the past, decided that it wasn't going to be pertinent enough for him to let me know that it was for sale. Well, I found out it was. And we went back and forth, and we ended up getting it for a pretty good deal. And in the process of doing all that, we had some leftover capital. And so I was like, hey, they're offering us a 2-for-1 deal right now. So if we buy Rolla, because they want to open more stores, the franchise is willing to give us a really sweet deal to buy in again at another location. And I'd had my eyes on Rolla for a long time to buy it. But I was like, all right, where else could we do this? And St. Clair, we have a huge membership base that comes from St. Clair. So it was like good and bad. It's like, all right, we're going to be taken from Union, but we're also going to be kind of expanding our region a little bit by opening St. Clair. And anyway, so we decided to just do a 2-for-1. So we opened St. Clair at the same time that we did Rolla.
Okay.
So we bought Rolla. We were working on the operations there. We got St. Clair set up. It took a little longer to get that opened. And then, of course, back to the staffing issues.
Yeah.
Nightmare. Trying to babysit 3 locations. One's an hour away.
Yeah.
It just became almost impossible to keep anybody employed down there. There was days I would show up and I'd call staff and be like, hey, I'm coming down just to hang out today, see how things are going. Oh, I'm not even going to be there today. And it's like, what? Well,
okay, you're the last person to know.
So then I'm like, well, I guess I'm coming anyway because someone's got to be there to run the gym.
Yeah.
So it became that over and over and over. And so finally it was like,
it's hard to get new members when you have nobody there to sign them up.
Oh my gosh. And then it just was a downward spiral from there.
Yeah.
And so I had a member that showed some interest, and I was like, you know what? I started this gym years ago with my dad. I'd like to continue to see it operate with or without me. And, you know, we did what we needed to do, and we parted from it. And I think it's doing well, and I still check in with them every now and then. I wish I would have probably kept some of the ownership to it, just because, you know, just because I have that, I guess, that tie to it from starting it. But someone told me one time that you shouldn't really try to stay emotionally attached to anything. When it comes to business and real estate, it's hard.
Yeah, it is.
You know, and
because it starts to cloud your judgment on the logical side if you're not careful. The balance we talk about all the time is very crucial, but you can't let the one be too heavy, especially when you're talking money involved and time. I mean, your time's spread thin right now. If you live in Lone and you're operating in Union, you're operating in St. Clair, proximity-wise, those are pretty in line with where you're at. Now, you throw Raleigh in an hour the other direction. You know, now I understand that's a good town because of the school and stuff that's out there. And so, I mean, you could create a culture out there that probably is pretty awesome just with the kids alone out there. But
you have to have somebody
you got to have somebody working there. You got to have somebody there. And nobody's going to run your business as well as you run it. And if you're not there to show them how it needs to be done, see, it's an issue we've ran into with starting things that we can't put our hands on. If I start it, like the company that I'm currently in, we got to do a franchise too. I had to put my hands on that. If I didn't put my hands on that, I've been in 4 months. And I'm just now staffing and stepping away because I have the right people in place that are doing it the way we want it done, where we can do that. But if I don't do that from the beginning solidly the whole time, it just won't get done the way we want it to get done. You know, there's a way that things can be done, and I understand there's more than one way to skin a cat. But there's the right way, there's the way that's getting it done, and there's my way. And at the end of the day, if my hat's hung on it and it's my ass that's on the line, it's got to be done my way. If it's not done my way, it's just not gonna matter, right? So how do you do that when you're all the way out here and you've got that all the way down there?
Well,
so
the biggest thing for me was Union was starting to pay almost all the bills. We were making our rent and we were making our payroll, but then it started getting to where we were starting to lose some membership base because I was not there to support that. But then when I started seeing as Union was, I had members saying, where are you? How come you're not at the gym?
Yeah.
We miss you. I stopped doing a lot of I was running classes at the time. I quit running those classes because I was down in Raleigh all the time.
Right.
So it was just hard to find that balance. And so, yeah, I don't have any regrets. It was the right thing to do. And, you know, kind of like what you said, if it's going to be done, it's going to have to be done my way. And at least for now, until I can get it up and running,
Right.
I think I'll always be married to any time in Union, just because it's where I started.
Yeah. There's a lot of time there. So
there's a lot of
emotionally,
time
there
there.
is a lot of attachment there, and it's not going to, you can't take that away.
And if it's
you
your
know?
passion and
Right.
something you truly love,
Right.
it's just.
Our trucking company's like that. I mean, my name's on it, and I started that. That's my name. So
Right.
I've got somebody else that runs it, and it pretty much is self-sufficient.
Right.
But that gentleman that runs it for me does it as if it were me, and very seldom makes a decision that I wouldn't have made if you asked me. I mean, he understands the way I want it done. An entrepreneur, a true entrepreneur.
Right.
And those are very, very difficult to find. But when you can, man, you got to take care of them. You got to hold on to them. You got to, treat them like your kid if you can, because or a family member if they're older than you, whatever. But it's difficult to have a business structured properly. But if you can put those key components in the right place, you'll watch it thrive, whether you're there or you're not, because your vision gets pushed.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so as long as that vision's being pushed, you don't have to be the person necessarily pushing it. People don't call and say, hey, where you at? Why are you not running these classes? If you put the right entrepreneur in that they connect with, that's still running the classes the way you would have ran them, and they're still getting everything out of it without your face, they no longer care that your face is there.
Right.
They just care that they're still getting the same value they were getting.
Right.
So that structure just has to be there.
Right.
It doesn't always have to be you.
Right.
And that's a whole nother buying back your time, so to speak, philosophy.
Right.
And entrepreneur-wise, it's the smartest thing to do. It's the best way to make money, because you have quadrants of your life that you're really good at, and then there's ones that you're not so good at, but you're doing all of them at times. So you have to find the people to take all these away from you, so you can operate in the one that you're best at.
Right.
So you can make the most money you can as an entrepreneur in those quadrants.
Right.
The most value that you can give in those ones that you're the best at.
Right.
So how does meal prep then? How did you get your wife involved and start meal prep? I mean, obviously I know the jump between meal prep and this, but I'm sure you were meal prepping. So were you like, we should, and we talked about how my brother was doing it, and you kind of talked to him, then he jumped out of it. So you're like, we need to jump in this.
Right,
we need
right,
to do this
right.
now. There's nobody doing it around here now.
Yeah, the price points was probably the hardest sell for me to try to utilize some other services. We'd looked, we talked about the online services and stuff.
Yeah.
And I think you're losing flavor. And my wife's an awesome cook. Not always the healthiest stuff. So I think I've offered probably a little more guys towards the eating and supporting the healthy alternatives within the recipes.
Yeah.
But she's the brainchild for sure. And honestly, it was more just out of convenience. We needed to have some better options within our household. Mm-hmm. And if we're going to be doing it already, then why not make a go of it if it's going to support our business? And honestly, I probably should have asked her more about this, because honestly, I don't necessarily recall what it just happened. Yeah. I do remember there was kind of a funny thing about it, because we were going to go to Colorado, and I was like, we don't have the extra scrap right now to go to Colorado, and I'm really busy. So she's like, well, if I start meal prep will pay for it. So I'll start meal prep. And literally that was her motivation, is she really wanted to take the kids to Colorado. So and it wasn't in the cards for me, because I was just busy. Yeah. And I didn't want to fork over the extra money to do the trip. And she's like, this will work. And so she did it, and it worked, and we just kept doing it. Yeah. And then it was fun. We would have nights where we would sit down and talk about the menus, and we would plan things out. And now we're just trying to get to a point where we're a year old, and we've kind of gone through a lot of trials and tribulations to try to figure out where we want to take it now.
Is scaling one of those is all in or all out? Like if you're dabbling in it and you're just cooking on Sundays, and it's enough to deal with so many people, but like you talked before about your wife stepping all the way into that role or not.
Right.
If you want to take it to the next level, it's full kitchen, full time. I mean, you're probably doing it 3-4 days a week.
Correct.
I mean, the meal prep places like Fit Flavors and stuff like I've used to use up in the city, it's a full-blown kitchen.
Right.
They have days that they cook food. They have days that they're preparing. They got custom orders coming in online. So, I mean, they're cooking every day.
Yeah. It's a full-on business. I mean.
But she's expanded immensely. So I know there's profitability in it. I know there's market for it.
Right.
Because people don't. It's convenience anymore. So that was
Even
something.
our kids eat them.
Oh, my son
well,
loves
I don't
them.
know how many I've got.
Yeah, I'm like, I gotta count. I might
Right,
only
right,
got
right,
6 or
right,
8 of them this
right.
week because, like I said, it's
Even
only about
salad,
70%
the
of what I eat.
steak,
Oh, yeah.
yes,
Right.
they do.
But it's yet again COVID. We'll go back to that. It created this market of convenience. People want stuff delivered. They want you to shop for them. They want Amazon to drop it off the doorstep. Hell, if you're going to do drones, bring my food delivery by drone.
Right.
15 minutes after I
Right,
order it.
right.
They'll pay for the convenience.
Right.
So you can charge a little more, take that money because it's not as valuable to me more, like we talked about. Money doesn't mean as much to people anymore like it used to. $1, if they're like, well, hell, for an extra, $13, they'll deliver it to my door and I don't have to leave my couch, deliver it, right?
My wife is still in awe that people support it the way they do.
That's
and
crazy.
we don't really even we haven't really even marketed it because we're trying to keep it scaled down for her to
Where you can
for the
handle it.
convenience where you can
Right.
handle it. And I'm ready to go full boat and she's still kind of because and I'm like, listen, if you it's kind of like Field of Dreams. If you build it, they will come. And it's been like that since we've started. And the little bit of stuff we'll just post out there. It's like all of a sudden we get this run of new customers and people asking about it.
When you've got a whole base just of the people that are members already at your gym.
And to be honest with you, most of our customers aren't even our gym members yet.
Oh, really?
Yeah, which
That's
is
funny.
crazy.
Yeah, it is
You
crazy.
know? I mean, we got the captive audience, and they're like, "Oh, you do meal prep?" It's like, yeah, it's literally
There's
right.
the fridge right there when you walk in. You can see everything in there. Did you guys
Right.
think it was all of our food?
Right.
We're not eating that much
Right.
here.
So I mean, that's how much we really have dumbed down the process because we want to get it out there. We want to get it done correct. We're really trying to finite those things right now.
Yeah.
In the macros, you brought up the macros.
Yeah.
We did a body scan on you.
Yes.
A lot of people don't
But you
understand.
also have a badass machine there
Right.
that does body scans.
Right.
I suggest to everybody who's really wanting to take their fitness seriously and get it dialed in to do a body scan on a legitimate machine.
Right.
Because it will baseline and target every single aspect of your fitness, from your muscular structure to your body fat percentages, left leg, left arm, right arm. I mean, it tells you everything you need to know and then it also gives you the suggestion on exactly what you need to maintain or to achieve your goals, whether it's fat loss, muscle building, or maintaining, right?
Right.
So
Yeah, so even taking that information to another professional to be able to go into more details on those things, the macronutrients is going to get you what you're wanting out of the nutrition side. So if you're wanting to maintain, that's going to be based off your basal metabolic rate. So if you're just kind of categorically going in there saying, okay, well, I'm this height, I'm this age, my basal metabolic rate's probably isn't going to get you the results.
Mm-hmm.
So our system is going to give you a more correct number on that basal metabolic rate, which is basically how many calories your body needs sitting still to operate, doing no activity at all.
Right.
Then based off that structure, then we look at your lifestyle. Do you lift weights? Do you run? Do you do any fitness at all? Are you sedentary lifestyle? What have you? All those are going to kind of go into that algorithm to figure out those macros. And then we help you dial it down, and honestly, we break it down to layman's terms so that you understand it. Does it take a little work? Absolutely. But if you want those results, then you're going to be willing to take the time to do the work.
But it's biology and it's math and it's proven.
You got to trust the science when it comes to that.
Trust the science and trust the process.
Trust the process.
Because so many people misunderstand fat loss with not eating. We talk about this extensively, and that we're in hormone therapy and stuff, which is something I want to talk to you real fast about before we end.
Right.
And people think that I can take weight loss supplements or different plans that we offer and not eat, and I'll just lose a bunch of weight. And I'm like, not true. There's the people plateau. They come in. I'm like, you are all the proof in exactly what we're talking about. You're not eating, are you? Oh, I didn't eat right. I didn't work out. And by working out, they might have just been doing walks for 30 minutes a day.
Right.
But they were losing 3 to 4 pounds a week consistently when they just did that little bit of activity and hit those lifestyle changes. And then when they quit, all of a sudden they're like, well, I didn't eat hardly anything this week and I didn't lose a pound. Well, I know. It was your body locked down on you.
Right.
You're not feeding it. So now it's worried. It's going into emergency mode.
Right.
And so it's a huge misconception that we're trying to educate people, and I know you do the same,
Right.
on the importance of proper nutrition. Not no nutrition, proper nutrition.
Right. And it's a hard sell, especially when you're telling somebody that maybe has some obesity issues that's always overeated, and you're telling them that they need to continue to eat more, comparatively to what maybe they've been doing, which is cutting all calories out.
Yes.
And it's calories in and out, but you also have to figure out your activity levels, what you're actually putting into your body, you know,
The proper fuel.
the fuel. I mean, food is fuel, and it should be considered fuel first. We want it to taste good, of course, but there's got to be that fine line between the two if you really want to get those results. And we hammer that down. And if you want results, you got to have some focus on that at some point. And I know with your systems that you guys are providing too, those are awesome opportunities for people to get that extra enhancement that they need to motivate them to get them to that next level. But you still got to put the work in.
Right.
You do.
At the end of the day, if you do not put the work in,
Correct.
it's not happening.
No.
And we talked I mean, obviously you're a very fit guy. You like to lift. I like to lift. But not everybody that we deal with is lifters.
Right.
We deal with a lot of women, believe it or not.
Right.
I mean, a ton of women that just want to thin out and lose some weight. Like
Right.
they've always been a size 25 their whole life, and they want to be in something that doesn't start with a 2.
Right.
I had somebody tell me that recently. I'm like, not a problem. We can do that. If it's an obtainable goal, when we sit down and we look at what you're currently doing, what your current numbers look like. And so I had an online RE, man. I appreciate your support, but you had shared something, and I had a gentleman on there that was REing with me. And now I know at the end of the day, his argument was pretty hollow because it was based solely off of pricing and insurance and stuff. So I didn't want to feed into it too much, but I did want people to understand that there is a difference between paying a price for a product and the value and service you get with that product.
Right.
And there is a lot of clinics that are not doing this correctly. They're
Right.
pushing a product, they're charging you a price for it, and they're saying, just take this and go away. I want people to understand that when we work with people like you for the fitness side, for the education and nutritional side, and then you're sending people to us, because we get people all the time that are coming to us that are being referred by you. Right. And it's more than just taking a product, and like you said, you have to put the work in.
Right.
But the accountability that comes behind it, the education, the science, all the things that we can break down behind that to show you why this is important is what's associated with the cost of what you're paying.
There's a client that I sent over to you, and it's a perfect example. He also at the time was actually talking to his nurse practitioner and was able to get everything he needed through his nurse practitioner at a lower rate.
Yep.
And he still chose to go to you and continue to go to you because you educated him. And that other practitioner just said, yep, go ahead.
This is what we can give
do
you.
that. Yep, we can give this to you. Yeah, we can do that.
And then when they ask the questions, well, what about this? Well, what about that? They're like, well, this is what the insurance will give you. So yes, you can get it cheaper, but you're going to have to do your own education.
Right.
And then we'll have people that'll do that from the black market, and they'll call us and be like, well, what about this? What about that? And I'm like, listen, here's the deal. I can give you all the education you need and all the accountability and all the checks and balances and everything that you need, but you have to be a patient of mine. Right. I'm not going to put that time and effort in if you want to kind of do it over here cheaply, but you want our services. I told the guy even online, I'm like, when you pay a mechanic a couple hours to put a $25 part on it and he gives you a $500 bill, you're not paying him for the 2 hours it took him to do it. It's the 10 years he took to understand and have the knowledge to be able to do that in 2 hours.
And do it correctly.
And efficiently, and that's, your car's going to last,
And when you're messing with your health, don't you want to do it correctly?
So we tell people, don't put anything in your body.
You would think.
Or my spouse. I mean,
don't put something in your body you don't know what you're doing.
Right.
Just like if you're going to go lift, like you said, it's intimidating when people start. When they come to a gym and they've never started, they're like, I don't know where to start. When someone like you would meet them and they'd be like, oh God, this guy's going to, like obviously he's got shit dialed in and it's intimidating. You're like, oh, hold on a second. Let me show you how to use the treadmill. Let me show you the best way to lift here. Let me show you where to start. Right. My brother set me up with this guide when I first started 2 years ago. And I remember, I've still got it on my phone and I still go back to it occasionally. I call it my basics. And anybody who asks me, I send it to everybody. I'm like, this is your basics. Do not deviate from this plan for at least 6 months. Right. Don't add anything. Don't subtract anything. Do not change anything off this for 6 months. It is the most basic layman plan, but it hits every muscle group and it is 6 days a week. And it has a nutritional guide at the bottom of it. I mean, he spent some time putting this together for me. Right. And it's so important just to have somebody to kind of guide you along the way.
Because I don't want to look like you do.
Right.
So I just want to tone and stuff like that. But I would go in and do different things. And Bobby's like, Shelly, you don't even want to work that part of your body. That's not what you need to do. Yeah. So, I mean, but I had no education on what I'm really supposed to be doing or not supposed to be doing.
You see things and you're like, oh, I think you're supposed to be doing this. Is what I saw so-and-so doing. And you're like, not really, unless you want to blow all the disc out of your back. And it's not really proper form and all that kind of stuff. But until you get into the details of all that.
So then you're intimidated. So then I didn't want to go because I'm like, I'm going to look like I don't know what I'm doing because I don't, but nobody's really trained me on what I'm supposed to be doing correctly.
Well, anybody can get online on Instagram or any social media and be like, hey, this works for me. And it's like, how do you really know that it works for them?
How do you know?
Right.
How do you know?
Show me the proof of how I know that worked
Right.
for you. Show me the whole process. Show me the beginning. Show me the end.
Yeah.
Show me what you did. Like, show me how you know that worked for you.
Right.
That's where you got.
And how long did it take you? That's what I'd
Let's
like.
be
I
realistic.
would like to see the timeline.
Yes.
Because I'm not saying it doesn't work, but let's see the timeline.
Like, how
of
many
all
years
the
have
other,
you been lifting?
Over half my life. So
Okay.
I mean, probably about 18 years old.
I've been lifting heavy for going on 2 years now.
Yeah.
And I'm probably not even halfway to my goal. I'm setting new goals all the time.
Right.
I watch these guys. They're like, this is me after year 1. This is me after year 5. This is me after year 10, 15.
Right.
But what happens is you see the guy at year 15, and you're like, that guy right there, I want that. That's a 15-year journey.
Right.
That's some hella dedication.
Right. Right.
15 years it
Right.
took that guy to look like that.
Right.
He didn't just start this. I seen him in high school. He's,
Right.
Alex Ramosi, big one. There was a scrawny dude in high school, but he was fit in high school still. But 15 years later, look at him now, and everybody's like, oh, I can be that dude in a year. No, you can't.
No way.
Not without some super
Right,
heavy
right,
crap that you
right,
don't want to be taking.
right, right.
Maybe you might kind of look like him.
Right.
But that's discipline and years of training and
Right.
sticking to a lifestyle
Still
change.
got to do the work. Right.
You still got to do the work.
Right.
So, man, I really appreciate you coming on.
Yeah,
if there's anything else,
great.
do you have any questions for us that you'd like to ask?
I'm sure I'm going to have 100 of them after I leave here, but no,
Because this is
very
what we do,
privileged.
and
Right.
we work with a lot of people, a lot of businesses, and promoting and their current operations and also their growth and expansion, and kind of getting them through some of their pinch points that they're currently in. And that's why we kind of want to talk to you too about your wife and
Right.
how she wants to play into this and stuff too, because we also work a lot with spouses that are working in business together.
Right.
It's a really hard thing for some. They can't spend that much time together. Me and her spend a tremendous amount of time together, and we do the best when we are spending a lot of time together.
Right.
So it works out really well for us.
So do you help her like in the kitchen, like when she's cooking and stuff, or do you try to?
I do probably not enough that she would say, but I tend to be more of the protein guy. So I'm the grill. I'm the griller. I'm the guy that's out at the grill for most of that stuff. And then I help kind of pinpoint some recipes and things like that. And then I'm the feedback a lot of times and the face of it in the gyms, even though it's not a lot of our gym members, the people that come in and that we talk to and market to, they always have questions about the products and stuff like that. And we're always kind of trying to think outside the box and come up with new ideas with recipes, because it's VW Fit Eats and Cheats.
Okay.
So the cheats aspect, it's kind of funny. I've had clients that they buy some of our cheats and they'll buy a bunch of them.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's a cheat.
Yeah.
So we need to
an
remember. We need to remember what cheats are. They're good and they're yummy, but they're also still a cheat. So let's not.
It's a limited, but it's very crucial.
Right.
It's also something that
Yes.
you'll educate people on
Right,
if they,
right,
that can find
right,
you, because
right,
it's
right.
important. It's
Right.
part of it.
Right.
Right.
We want people to be able to still enjoy themselves and enjoy
Yes.
food sometimes on occasion as well. So that's why we kind of threw that little caveat into our.
Give me
into
like
our
10 of those
company.
Rice Krispie treats. And
Well, that's kind of how it goes with some of that. I'm like, he's like, I swear. He goes, I swear I didn't eat all those this week. I've been eating them sparingly out throughout the last several weeks. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, no, I would say the only question I'd have is, my wife and I don't want her to stop pursuing her dreams for
Right.
my dreams. And she's such a great cheerleader that sometimes I worry that that's what's going to happen. And so we've been kind of going back and forth with school and whether she's going to keep her job or if she's going to continue to go that route. And at the end of the day, I'm like, whatever you choose to do, I just want you to know that I have your back 100%. You've had mine, and whatever that may be. I mean, if she says I don't want to do meal prep anymore, then it's not. Then we're just not going to do it. I want to be that support for her. But I feel like I know she's not done with meal prep. We've had that conversation very recently, and I think she's going to continue to do it. I think she's scared, and I am too. And I think you guys talked about that in the past. Any kind of leap. You're taking a chance.
But at least with her having her degree and stuff and
Right.
the schools, if you take a year off,
Right.
that doesn't mean you can't go back.
Right.
Anytime you would want to.
they'd probably gladly take you back.
Absolutely.
It's not even going to
So
be.
sometimes
a hard
it's
stretch.
just, it is hard to try.
Right.
But sometimes it's the best thing that you can do. And you always, I always have my degree and I always have the school that I taught at and stuff like that.
Right.
So, I mean, if I ever wanted to go back, I know that they would take me back in a heartbeat.
Right.
And so, I mean, you always do have that little security in the back of your mind, but
Sure.
sometimes that time and just trying it out on your own is the
Right.
best thing that you can do.
'Cause you don't know what you don't know.
That's
Right.
the thing.
And we're real big proponents of individualism. And so you know who you are pretty solidly. You know your position in life. You know what your purpose is, what you're pushing, what you're doing. And your wife needs to know that too.
Right.
She needs to know, who am I? You know, am I a school teacher? Is this what I do? Is this truly this is my identity?
Because I did. Once I resigned, I was like, I need to find myself though. Yep. What is my purpose going to be? Because I don't want to just be home all the time. I'm going to
just be a mom, a stay-at-home mom.
I have to do other things.
Right.
So I mean, it did make me get out there and think outside the box and help Bobby and stuff a little bit more.
But I only pushed her
right
on the things she wanted to do with me.
Right.
I wasn't like, I need you to do this, I need you to do that, I need you, because she would, and she might be unhappy doing it, but she would step up because she knows I needed it.
But
so
it's also our business and us together. So I mean, as long as it's benefiting us, but it did give me more time with the kids, because if Bobby needed me to do stuff, we would go. If he's like, Shelly, I need you to go down to St. Louis and pick up this truck part, I'm going to go do that. Now, I'm not going to come straight back. I might stop at Chuck E. Cheese, or I might stop at do something with the kids, but we would make it fun. But that's what you had to do. I had to still make it fun, so the kids didn't always feel like it was just work. But in the same instance, I know too, like being a teacher and stuff, I also had to look at like, when I talked about resigning, like, what are we going to do about insurance? What are we going to do about some of this? So we would put things in place. Bobby'd call, and we looked at private insurance policies and stuff like that to make sure it was affordable and stuff before we took those leaps.
We looked like if there was gaps there that she was paying for, then what can I do on mine? So if she does that, then she's freeing me up a little bit, because if she's taking over the roles that I'm helping her with, because it's a 2-income household, so obviously I'm doing a lot of the dad type stuff and kid stuff, and I'm doing my job, plus she's doing her job and kid stuff too. Now she's taking the kid stuff off my plate. Right. So if those duties are coming off my plate and you're freeing me up, what can I utilize that time to fill that gap, to allow her to not only be the mom and support me in my role, but allow me to afford us to be able to fill that gap that we just made by not having her income no more. What we found out was in entrepreneurship, I could probably make in a couple hours what she was making in a week if I leveraged it correctly.
Right.
So then we started setting that up before she would resign. Right. So we started figuring out how does this look? What do we do? What equipment do I need? How many people do I need to hire? Right. What lanes do I need to have? It's all different in every industry, but we would we would figure out, and then once we had the model set up and we tested it and it was working, we're like, go.
Right.
And then we'll just jump in, like she said. If it didn't work out in any amount of time, I'll just sign a new contract and go back. And there was times she was tempted to go back. As years went on.
Because you do miss it. Yeah. I missed it.
Right. Part-time even as like a reading specialist or something like that. But we would look at what we call the opportunity loss, the opportunity cost, and it was always what the time that she was giving up was always way more valuable than what she would be making for going to do what she was going to do. Right. What she would miss out on, or what she could have been doing to make money, was far more vast than what she was going to make over here. And so what she thought she was missing, she really wasn't as bad as she thought it was.
Well, and even bringing the kids up, we have an 8-month-old, and she's not going to get that time back.
Right.
And if she can have that time and I can give her that, that's something that it's going to help make me feel better about her days.
And she'll appreciate it more than she's going to
have all that time with Porter that she would have not been able to have. And that makes me happy. That makes my heart happy, and that helps support everything.
Right.
But I couldn't make her not sign that contract. She had to make that decision.
Because then Bobby and I had talked when I was thinking about resigning or not resigning, because I could have retired at like 52, 53, being a teacher and stuff. And I said, but Bobby, and we talked, and I'm like, do I want to raise my kids or do I want to raise my grandkids? Because I can raise my kids right now and be home some. Right. Or I can help with my grandkids later, and my kids are going to miss so much.
But I mean, if you get into that side of things, from the private standpoint, from the entrepreneur standpoint, I heard a guy this morning that was talking about how if he would have put $1 million in the S&P 500 when he was 18, by the time he retired, he would have like, I forgot what it was, like, I don't even think it was $10 million. It was like $8 million, something like that, okay? And he's like, and that's just like average and so on and so forth. But he's like, if I would have taken that same money and put it in private equity, by the time I retired, I would have had like $109 million. So it's really just perspective on how you work that and where you put it. Right. We have got a system that teaches us to go to school and be a worker bee. And we actually had a conversation about this recently because we were like, we think it's really important. That's why I brought up when you said you went to school, went to college to be a teacher. I feel like you probably utilize those skills more than you realize. If you really sat down and hyperanalyzed
going into the school and helping with those
even teaching teaching people how to lift, teaching people to be a better. Those teaching skills you learned while you were in college. just how to convey a message to somebody to where they retain it.
And we were talking too about just giving yourself, though, if you're able to, giving yourself the time to grow from 18 to 22 and those life experiences that you will never get back.
Right.
You know,
to these kids that are trying to jump to entrepreneurship at 18, I'm like, life hasn't handed you enough shit yet for you to probably quite understand that. Now, you can start some side hustles and get your feet wet, but you need to go learn from somebody else for a while. You need to go work in the real world for a little bit, you know, and I do think you need to learn a trade. You need to learn something. I'm not going to put a lot of weight into a degree. I'm not a huge proponent of college debt for a piece of paper. To think that you are entitled to something, you need to earn it, you know. And in today's people, I know me, I hire on character. I can train anything that I need. If you've got the licensing and you got the character, I can train you all the other stuff. I don't care if you came in with 30 years experience driving. Most likely, you're probably not going to be a good candidate for me because you're going to have a bunch of old habits that I have to break. That's going to be a problem for me. So I think it's important that people understand that before they jump into the entrepreneur journey. But like going back to what we were saying about the retirement aspect of it, to some degree is kind of, I mean, some people disagree with me, but it's kind of a joke. You know what I mean? It's they trap you with that. Oh, you got to, this is good and this is great. And you only make this much money per month, but you got all this stuff on the backside. We don't know what that's going to look like in 20 years. We have no clue what our government's going to do. We might show up in 20 years and like, yeah, we robbed all that. Sorry, it's gone. Look what Illinois did with their teachers. Didn't they rob? Their fund was gone. And it's like they go to retire and they're like, there's no money there. There's no money to give you. It's gone. We took it. And we couldn't put it back. I mean, I don't know if that's still the case, but I thought that was an issue a couple years ago. So it's like, you never know what that's going to look like. But what you can guarantee yourself is what you're capable of doing and what you can do. So if you put that together correct.
If it's meant to be, it's up to me. Period.
Correct. And you look at her and say, hey, what do you want?
Do
you want to teach still? Are you passionate about it? Because I don't want you to quit if you're passionate about it. But if you're done, what's life look like for you now? Do you want to be a mom to Porter? Do you want to be able to be home and be?
You can still do both.
Absolutely. No. But when I say that, like when I talked to her the other day, she's like, I was up 3 a.m. and now I'm here at 9 and I got things to do and I'm tired. I'm exhausted. I wanted to go to the gym, but I
worked yesterday
because I'm exhausted.
And I went to bed at 12 and we were up at 4. And so 4 hours of sleep. Here we go.
And you worked
know
all
what
day.
I mean? Yes.
With me at the clinic. So yeah. And so you guys have it pretty hard.
But you put a smile on your face and you do try. But I know, like, working like in a classroom like she does, that's taxing, and I'm sure that takes a lot out of her.
And that's not a 9 to 5 either.
No, but I'm sure she also, you get attached to your kids too, I'm sure. So I mean, I know it's a hard one. Yeah.
But that's definitely an individual. That's a conversation you have to have really deep with yourself, like she does. And then for me, I just had to support what it was that she wanted until she seen it. Now, when she finally stepped out and was like, I want more out of life than this, then I was all for it.
They did offer me, like, to take a year off.
Yeah.
So I was able to do that.
Right.
And then if I want, so I did still have that safety net because I said,
the next
year.
Yeah, we've had that. She's had that conversation.
Yeah.
So that's on the table right now, and that's kind of where she's at.
And so you're never gonna know what that year looks like if you don't just take it. Now, financially and stuff, you have to look and be like, can I do this?
Because I would think now it's Christmas time, this is what they're doing in the classroom, and it's this time, this is what they're doing in the classroom. But it got to where, like, when she called in January and she's like, okay, so we kind of need to know what you're thinking. And I'm like, it's too soon. It's too soon. I'm not ready. I'm not ready.
Right.
You know? Right. So a lot of discussions, but it was, it's great. I love both sides of it. So, but it's always something I could go back and do later if I wanted, when my kids
But she
are grown.
uses those skills now when we deal with companies. Yeah. Because the structure of running a classroom is not much different than the structure of running a business. You just kind of plug and play some different aspects in. So she's able to...
And I'm still helping my kids learn how to read at home. So
Right.
Still got that.
Right.
And math.
And the communication skills that you have from doing that all those years too. Plus, I know... you guys have mentioned you had a position at Walmart too, and they wanted you to move forward.
Yes.
So you've got a lot of experience.
Yeah.
And whatever we do in this world, I feel like I'm an experiences person, so I feel like the experiences that I have, or when I hire somebody, I want to know what kind of experiences they've had, and how they handle those things. Kind of like you said, you can have someone that, I get trainers that come in and, I want to be a trainer. Well, what's your experience? Oh, well, I look like this. That's great, but what have you, how do you help others? Like, do you have a passion to help other people? Well, people are all right. Well, you're not probably going to fit for us. Because I need someone that's going to be compassionate about other people.
Is that your
and
purpose?
helping other people has to be one of the main things, or it's just you're not a good fit.
How are you going to be a trainer if you're not passionate about helping other people achieve their goals?
Right.
You're training other people.
Right.
They're not. It's not just like, here, I'm going to go lift, watch me, and just try to replicate what I'm doing.
Right. And believe it or not,
Keep up.
I'm gonna get paid to do this right
Yeah.
now.
we get a lot of that. So anybody out there, if you're going into this business, the fitness
Line of
business,
field.
and you look and you just think because you look the part that you can play the part, you're going to lose. You have to be able to sell yourself, but you have to be able to have that compassion, that support, and be able to really. You have to give a shit.
Yes.
And if you don't give a shit,
Yes.
people will see through that.
Absolutely, they will.
And you're not going to have success with that.
So where can people find you then in all your businesses here?
So we have I have my personal page, VW Fit Dude. That's my training page. We have VW Fit Eats and Cheats, and then also Anytime Fitness in Union, Missouri, and also St. Clair, Missouri.
Awesome. So if you guys are looking for a place and you're in the area and you're looking for somebody who actually gives a crap, it's more than just a number and a membership. I would absolutely recommend you guys go see him, and his wife's food is fire. So definitely give her a shout for a meal prep.
Yeah.
All right, man. We appreciate you coming.
Thank you so much.
so much.
Thanks, guys.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.